Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. There he is. I will just. Is the webcam correct again then? No, it's not because I have to pop you out. And there he is. Nice. Now I have Gelotris here. I can change the text. Gelotris. There we go. And then. Wait, can we? Okay, we'll start off with that, Gelotris. We'll start off there. Why is it that whenever I go live with you, all chat can do is write stare?
Because of this.
It's the frozen image. It's the still image of Gelotris staring into the souls of the viewers. I like it. There's nothing more awkward than maintaining none or little blinking eye contact with the viewers. They don't know what to do with themselves. Yeah, it's very awkward.
I tried to work on it, but at the same time I was like, let's just let that meme run, you know.
It's the thing, because where else do you look, right? Where else do you look? It's always weird like that. I'm happy to have you back on. I hope you enjoyed your little break after the show was done today. And again, thank you, Fenip, if you're here in chat, even if you're not. Then thank you so much for stopping by and sharing some knowledge with us. I want to ask you right off the bat, Gelotris. It can be more conversation. It doesn't have to be like me interviewing you. It can just be a talk. But obviously, being a very, very high-level player, now having gotten a foot in on the broadcast side of things, being not only a caster, but also you were an analyst at the both the regionals and the World Cup, which is now World Championship, last year. Which do you prefer?
Well, I wouldn't really say I'm a caster.
But you're on broadcast talent.
On the analyst. I would say I'm more an analyst than a caster.
That's fair.
I don't feel like I'm that engaging. I'm also not that good at talking, really. I feel like it got better since
We'll leave that up for chat to decide. They seem to me like they're pretty pleased with you talking.
So I'm more there for the boring talk and just explain what's going on in their brains and what they are thinking about and what we see on the round, rather than.
But hey, I mean,
being a caster. But
bro, I'm just yapping. That's what I do. You're the guy that actually teaches the viewers what's going on.
Yeah, maybe. I think, having a mix of both
Definitely.
I think makes it perfect.
Yeah. Agreed.
And yeah, which side do I enjoy more?
I mean, it's not that you have to pick a side. It was just to kind of put you on the spot for a second.
Well, of course, with especially nowadays, how much time you have to commit into grinding. Definitely this side.
It's
talking over it.
It's more forgiving, I suppose, in a way, because especially seeing these guys playing the World League. At least, I mean, obviously you have a whole other approach to it because you have been there yourself. But seeing, as you say, the amount of time they put into playing every single week for what, a half year, almost a half year, being like having to show up and bring your A game for 21 weeks straight. No one can do that. Like it's literally impossible. So seeing some of the guys up in the top of the leaderboard, like Blinky, Consus, Rado, Depre up there now as well, tied with MK, it's absurd to me how incredibly consistent they are. Because it shouldn't be possible. Not through, like, over a weekend, over 2 tournaments maybe. But in terms of days played, this is effectively what, like, 7 tournaments. Like, in terms of actual broadcast days that you've played, it's somewhere along the lines of, like, 7 regionals that you've played when you're done with the World League. And that's insane that they can come out and be so consistent.
Pretty much. And it's not only the games on Sunday, because that's what everyone else sees. All that grind happens before that.
Exactly.
So it's really just Monday to Saturday is where they really put their work in and have to commit and grind.
So I wanna ask you from, I mean, again, now that you have your kind of your set behind the scenes more than actively being part of the World League, how from, I mean, obviously both a on-screen talent perspective, but also from a person with a lot of player experience yourself, how have you seen the evolution, I should say, of the World League from week 1 to now? Are people playing more confident, or like how do you feel like it has developed over again almost the last half year?
Yeah, I try to like maybe, of course, I'm always preparing before the Sunday cast, and I'm always looking back, especially on Liquipedia. I don't know if you saw the Liquipedia page for GeoGuessr. It's like putting out all the results and all that, and I like to, especially when I know who's playing for today, I go through their profiles on Wikipedia and look how they performed. But until now, I didn't really see a pattern for someone where it like really changed. Not only based on results, but also how they are playing. I feel like most of them, because at the same time, everyone is grinding,
Exactly.
No one is grinding more than others. There's no one like leaning back. Therefore, the good players will get even better, and the non-favors will maybe get a little bit better, but at the same time, everyone else in the competition won't sleep and will also be on it. And
everyone's
therefore, you
learning.
don't really, get a huge difference, especially not in that short amount of time.
No, for sure. I am now, while we're sat here, I don't know if I could do it this way or if that pops me out of your call, but I'm going to invite someone to our conversation. And it's funny because you don't know who I'm inviting. So that's going to just make things fun. But I have a few people that we want to talk to today, and one of them is here. Let me see if I can... I don't think I can do this, then it pops me out of our call. So I will... because then it spoils it. Then you get to see... Okay, you cannot look at your monitor. Don't look at Discord. You can't look... Because I'm inviting him to our conversation. If I do this... No, that threw me out of the call with... God damn it. I can't do that. So I have to... Wait... There we go. And there we go. And there we go. I'm pressing too many buttons, chat. I'm sorry. Are you here? You are here. You're both here. But now Gelotris can see who it is. No.
I saw it. I had to look.
It's fair enough. And now I have to put up our webcams again because I messed up when I set this up earlier. So give me 1 second, chat. I will fix this as fast as I possibly can. This is me. I'm being flung over here, and it's still very exciting. Maybe if our new viewer starts talking, chat will know who it is. It's very exciting who we're gonna be joined by. Then I'm gonna do there.
Trying to fiddle with my desk so that it doesn't look as nasty as it actually is.
Here we go. We are joined by Sp4ghet, none other than main man Sp4ghet himself. How are you doing today, Sp4ghet?
Pretty good. I didn't have games this week, so I've just kind of been chilling and watching the games as they happen.
How is that? I mean, going from having days where you have to play, like almost in every single seat, you play back to back to back to back to back, like non-stop, and then all of a sudden you go, wait, I'm not doing anything for like 8 days.
I mean, it's still kind of the same. I've just been playing GeoGuessr.
Yeah.
Anyways, regardless. So
is there?
There's not a whole lot different. Yeah.
Is there? Is there any? I mean, for you, obviously you go from one game straight to the next, one game straight to the next. When you do play, do you feel any difference in days where you have a lot of games being played? Like in terms of building momentum, if you came off of a really good win, or on the flip side of that, if you lost a game in an annoying fashion or something like that, and you're like, oh, I should have won that game. Does that then stay with you going into the next match?
I feel like for me, the time of day matters a bit more. So slot 0, when it happens, like slot 0 is usually in the morning for me, and then the like usual first slot, so the one that we just had, is in the evening. And so I feel like playing in the morning just feels a lot worse for me.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of the case for most people, but
okay.
Just waking up early in the morning, not my favorite activity. So
How has by all means, Gelotris, if you want to interrupt, just go ahead and interrupt. We talked so often, you and I, now that you know when just to say, Toby, shut up. How?
I'm fine with listening along.
Cool. Spaghetti, I want to ask you, obviously being a representative, at least for me in terms of esports, a representative in the tournament from a country that usually doesn't have a whole lot of communication with the rest of the world. A lot of people from Japan that I talk to in esports, they don't speak good English, or they're just hard to, like, the community is hard to breach into from a non-Japanese perspective. How do you feel like? Because I feel like you're kind of the gap bridger, so to say. Like, you're very outspoken. You're obviously, I mean, perfect English for good reason. How do you feel? Do you feel as a representative of the Japanese community when you play, like, World League and tournaments like that? Or do you see yourself more as a, let's call it, international player?
It's kind of a mix of both. So, like, obviously day to day, because I'm like located in Japan, it's easier to play with Japanese players. So I spend a lot more time on average, like, practicing and playing with Japanese players. But I also, like, asynchronously, I can just speak to other English speakers. So I do play with, like, people who speak English in Europe or, like, the US or Canada, I guess. But like, when the time zones line up, sometimes I'll play with like, people from abroad. But I guess I'm kind of like somewhere in between, and sometimes I'll, like, act as the translator between some of the players from Japan that are, like, higher on the ranked leaderboard, but, like, nobody knows them because they don't speak English.
No, exactly.
And so, like, yeah.
So
Sometimes, Lion's Den, as mentioned earlier, we like to talk about accounts that no one knows about, but sometimes there's, like, actual people inside. So
they're not just robots that are getting games going. That's good to hear. How do you, I mean, were you surprised when you heard, just to completely segue off to something else, but still obviously Japan related, were you surprised when you heard that the APAC major is gonna come to Tokyo?
A little bit. I kind of, it was always gonna be Australia or Tokyo, probably.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, unless it was gonna be in, like, Stockholm again, but
okay. It was never gonna be. It was never gonna be in Thailand or Indonesia or something like that.
I would assume not.
No?
Just kind of by the sheer number of, like, players and also players in the World League itself as well. Just, I think Japan, especially if you look at, like, players that just play the game casually as well, I think Japan and Australia are, like, the two biggest populations within APAC. So, I mean, I think it was kind of a 50-50 whether it would be in Australia or Tokyo, but maybe, like, logistically it was just easier with Tokyo, because you would have to fly everyone from Australia to, like, one of the cities anyways.
True.
Whereas with Tokyo, I guess it's a bit easier to just decide on Tokyo when you choose Japan.
Yeah, true, I suppose. It's most people are either in or around, or have somewhat easy access to Tokyo. Was there, so when it then was announced, obviously, I mean, you're a much bigger part of that community than I am, because I'm not really part of the Japanese community at all, for good reason. Was there a big, like, yay among the community, or was it like, wait, what? Because I know I was surprised when I heard the world championship was going to be in Denmark. I didn't know until, like, very late, pretty much until right before I were sent out to do the announcement video. I had no clue. So were you equally, like, excited to have a tournament take place in your home country?
For me, it's nice. I don't have to travel that far. I live in Tokyo.
True.
But I think, I mean, obviously reception is generally positive, but like, I wouldn't say we're, like, super excited for it. For one, there's no, like, announcement of ticket sales, so I think no one actually really knows if we're gonna be able to, like, attend.
Okay.
So,
or if it's
kinda
just gonna be a
like,
studio event.
cautiously optimistic, yeah. Like, maybe it's just held in Tokyo and we're gonna, like, be watching from our phones anyways, or, like, is there gonna be, like, some kind of stage where people are going to be able to watch. Yeah.
I would
So,
like to tell you, but I don't know either. So I I can't really enlighten you
we'll find out.
at all.
We'll find out soon.
Yeah, I'm
for
sure
me.
it's gonna be announced. I mean, it's soon enough, so you'd have to imagine that it's gonna be announced. And it's a 1-day tournament. I think the pressure isn't as high to get that info out. Had it been like a whole week thing where you need to sell tickets for multiple days, that you need certain time in advance to make sure that people have enough time to get those tickets. But honestly, I have no clue either. Gelotris, I was wondering how early on, because obviously being a Turkish GeoGuessr player, now talent and player, but how early on were you introduced to, let's call it, the East Asian community, or how early? Because maybe it's just me being wrong. I imagine that the Western scene, it plays with the Western scene, unless if we have the World League tournaments that kind of force you together. How early on were you introduced to, say, Korean players, Japanese players, to go wait, there's also a whole thing going on over there?
I don't think there's really a crossover within the countries in Asia. Mostly it's the communities are only based within their countries themselves. I know there's a big Thai community, for example, but they are all playing with each other and not really with any other Asian countries. And same applies for Japan. And the same thing is also happening in Turkey, where most of them just play with Turkish players within Turkey. I mean, some of them are also known in more international, I should say, international scenes and communities. But yeah, that's definitely a thing that's common in Asia, where they are in their own country with the community.
I guess it also means language thing, right? I mean, I'm sure
definitely.
Sp4ghet, you can echo this, but it's more comfortable being able to just lean back and play with your friends in your own language. But are you seeing Sp4ghet? Are you seeing more and more Japanese players start branching out to global or international communities now than maybe back in the day, or is it still very? Because I know in esports and other games than GeoGuessr, it's still very Japanese exclusive, so to say, but we are still now, I feel starting to see more crossovers where Japanese players will try and get a foot in other regions, different sports.
So I guess one of the things is there's not one singular Japanese community per se. There's kind of
multiple
sects.
Groups.
Yeah, so they're all kind of sharded off into different segments.
Is that just randomly online, or is it because one was created by one influencer, and one was created by the other, or is it regionally split, or how did the multi-grouping come to be?
There used to be a couple pretty big servers that were the de facto standard server, but some one of them the admin would go missing, or the admin would go somewhat crazy or something, and then we're kind of back in limbo where there's just 5 or 6 different
Wild
servers where but yeah, so obviously I can't speak to every single Japanese player, but
No.
I would say for example, if you're becoming a expert on a particular country, so maybe they're not very well known in World League context, but KZT is a really good Russia player, and so he's always been part of the Russia Chord community, which is I guess an international community, but he's been part of there and he's kind of known and respected there. But otherwise I would say most of the Japanese players that grind world map, most of them are just grinding ranked. So there's not a whole lot. So the interface would be ranked duels.
Yeah, it's not so
there's a bunch of
structured
people that play
as
ranked.
to. Yeah, okay. I get that. Is that the same in Turkey? I don't know how much you are part of the Turkey-specific communities, Gelotris, or if you're more, hovering in the more international communities. But do you see the same thing being the case in Turkey that people kind of just stick to their own in that regard?
I feel like, I mean, there's only one really big GeoGuessr Discord.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really clustered in different segments, how Sp4ghet mentioned it. I feel like that's usually what's happening if you have different interests in the game modes
True.
that are played, maybe, because, for example, in the international community, you have most of the competitive player, duels player, and moving player. I know they are a lot, I mean, most of them are in the Discord of Jake Lions, the Lions Den.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and I mean, what else is there to have a contrast to that? Not really anything. Maybe Plonket. I feel like Plonket isn't really a moving community. It's, of course, it's very generic and has everything, but you won't see that many no move or NPC players committed to that community. Maybe that's one reason why it's getting clustered into multiple segments.
Could be.
But that's not really the case in Turkey. There's this one Discord and everyone is in there and they play all sorts of modes. Of course, it's also depending on how committed you are to the game, because there's a big Turkish GeoGuessr community, but I feel like going into a Discord server is like the next step where you're a bit more committed.
True.
Because I see a lot of YouTube videos and all that, and I see there's some interest and a lot of people watch it. But actually joining a GeoGuessr Discord is like a next step where you are a bit more interested than just watching the game, but also want to get good at it, maybe.
No, that makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Now that we have you here, Sp4ghet, obviously we've had the pleasure of interviewing you, I guess, for the post-match interview a couple of times. Oh, is it only been? I think it's been twice that I've had the chance to talk to you. Now I don't remember. In any case, now that we finished off yet another week of play, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the overall leaderboard. I'll bring it up on screen so everyone can get a chance to take a look at it as well. You guys are both gonna be, yep, that's just how it looks right now. This is how it's gonna be. How do you feel like you're faring compared to maybe what you were expecting from yourself coming into the World League?
From like an individual performance standpoint, I've popped off a couple times, I'd say.
Yeah, I can think of one particular case that you really popped off in. I mean, I'm just saying.
But I think just like points wise, I think it's about probably where I expected to be.
Yeah.
Middle of the pack ish.
Yeah.
Or like slightly below.
Yeah.
But
do you have any
hopes? Of
hopes?
the league, I was like really unmotivated, so I was just kind of like playing to like play. But lately, I've kind of gotten back into grinding again, so maybe that's part of the reason why things are picking up.
I mean, you're definitely in the race. Looking at the leaderboard, you're in that. I mean, we talked about it on air, Gelotris and I. The 40-point bunch where like one map win, and you're like 7 places up the leaderboard. It's pretty insane. Right, I mean, now,
we had it with the Mada game earlier.
Exactly.
I think he jumped 15 places winning against Anu.
That's absurd.
Really? That's crazy.
That is absurd. But yeah, I mean, you're sat at 44. What would a win get you? That would get you from 20th to 15th tied with Lendley. And then another win, you'd be tied in like 11th through 13th. That's 2 wins. Like 6 points in a day, and all of a sudden, I mean, obviously depending on how everyone else plays, you'd be in the 50s, and then all of a sudden you're looking really good. Does that give you, like, knowing that you're still in the race, does that give you extra motivation to try and fight for, if not a direct world championship spot, then like regionals and whatnot?
I don't expect to be able to squeeze into the top 12, I think. I mean, obviously, if no one else plays any games and I like win a few games, it's like numerically possible. But obviously, when someone wins, someone else loses, or vice versa. So some amount of points will increase.
Mm.
But I don't know. I hadn't really thought of that.
No?
But I guess
That's why I
right
ask.
now I'm like I think I'm like pretty close on the border of being able to make it to the Tokyo regionals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like would be nice to be able to go to that.
I mean, right now,
suppose.
if we were to finish today, technically you're in. Just over Eamon, and Kirania would then be out by 4 points to Eamon. Eamon the demon. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but it just rolls off the tongue so well. So for me, until he changes his name in game, he'll be Eamon the demon.
I think Feneb mentioned this as well, but like the ranking leaderboard that we have on the website is kind of misleading because of like the number of played games is like different. Yeah. So there is like another one that I think Kirania maintains, which like divides the number of points by the number of games played and then does like a average points per game.
Well, I mean, even
so on that one,
it's
like pretty close.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, of course. I will, as we're sat here now, chitting and chatting, I'll once again, like we did with Feneb just before, give people a chance to ask some questions to Sp4ghet. Maybe there's something they want to know. Maybe there's, also, I mean, it's obviously up to you, Sp4ghet, whether you are interested in answering said questions. I've heard people ask weird questions before, so don't feel like you're forced to... forced to answer anyone's in particular. In the meantime, while I look through that, I'll hand the mic over to Gelotris, and then since you left me for 45 minutes, then now it's your turn to talk while I sit back and eat this banana.
Sure. I hope you won't need 45 minutes for the banana, though.
No, I hope not.
Okay, do we have any questions? We do have one already.
One, yeah.
Sp4ghet, any upcoming match you're especially excited about?
So there's not a lot actually, but I am interested to play captain because I've like never heard of him before he started playing in the league.
Oh, wow.
I was like very unaware of how he plays and how like what he's good at or like what kind of player he is in general. So would be fun to play against him. I think most of the other players I've like played against in a tournament or like in ranked at some point or another. So it would be, I don't know, it's just exciting to play someone new that is like also very good, I think.
Don't think that's only from your player perspective, but also for the viewers. I feel the same. If it's someone who has not been on stage that often or not for too long, those games are always more interesting for me to watch as well.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense because you don't know exactly what you're getting yourself into. I remember, think back, Toby, when we did the EMEA regionals last year in Stockholm, there was... Why did his name slip my brain now? The Swedish player who came from Minecraft.
Crooks.
Yeah, exactly. Crooks was playing, and that was also a case of no one really knows who he is. No one really knows what he's going to bring to the table. Like, is he going to play fast? Is he going to play slow? What's going to be his fortes? People weren't quite sure at the time, and I think that makes for a great story from a broadcast perspective. Like, we can hype up the enigma, like the big question mark of overshadowing that player. But also for opponents, oftentimes you see, great, I'm going up against MK, therefore I'm now preparing myself to play like this. Or I'm going up against Consus, therefore I'm now preparing myself to play like this. But as you're saying, Sp4ghet, when you're going up against a guy you don't quite know what you're dealing with, then that forces you to play very adaptive, like, in a way. Or ready to make changes on the fly. Sorry, I interrupted, but I'm done eating my banana.
Are we... Is Crooks like previous GeoGuessr stuff gate kept? Is that a secret? I thought we kind of already knew like he was like a really good player.
I think people knew he was a
I-
good player. It's just like, you know, coming in, playing on stage, all these things, you never know what it does to you. I mean, I've seen games. I've also, having met a lot of you guys in Stockholm, obviously, talked to you where the sentiment often was, I'm making mistakes right now that I would have never done had I been, you know, in my apartment by myself with my headset on with my favorite music. Where as soon as you come to the LAN environment, you literally sat with a camera straight in your face. You have your opponent sitting right next to you. You can almost kind of pseudo hear his clicks, and you're like, oh, that's terrifying. I feel like that brings pressure in a whole other way than
Yeah.
than that. So when you have a guy like Crooks coming in, and that's I guess what I was leading into, to play for the first time in an environment like that, you have no clue really what you can expect.
I mean, it was the case for me with Crooks, definitely. Obviously, anyone playing in that environment is obviously good. But it was at the APAC in the... Was it the APAC? Not sure anymore. Or was it the World Cup? Was it the World Cup?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. We were sitting in the training room where the players practiced, and I saw Crooks playing there for the first time. And I was so impressed. I was like, okay, this guy's bringing it home. I was like, yeah, watching over his shoulder, watching him play, and it was like very impressive. Was playing against Blinky as well, and he made Blinky look like a beginner there sometimes.
Oh,
like
wow.
it was very even. And if a player can be even with Blinky, then you know, does speak for someone who is very good at the game.
No, that's definitely true. Definitely. I saw another question come through. Do you remember, Sp4ghet, I'll give those one to you. Do you remember the first time you played GeoGuessr?
Yes, but in the same way, like when you know how you can like look at pictures of like a childhood like photo album and be like, oh yeah, that
You remember
happened,
it
but
based on
you
the
don't,
photo
like-
and not necessarily like, is it your
Yeah.
memory? Is it the, yeah, I see what you're saying.
So I
Do you have
like
a photo of
tweeted
the
my
first time you
game of
played GeoGuessr?
Yeah. But I don't actually remember what the locations were.
No,
But like
no.
I just remember like when it happened and like
The situation.
roughly how it went. Yeah.
Who introduced you to it? Or like, was it just you finding it via like social media and YouTube or?
I think one of my friends sent me like a picture of, or like a link of a Rainbow video. In particular, it was like the one where he had an eye tracker on, and he was explaining like what he was looking at to make his guesses. And then from there, I started watching a lot more GeoGuessr content, and then eventually I decided I'd pick it up myself, which was May of 2023.
That's insane. I mean, talking to Philip just before, he's also said he pretty much started playing like 2 years ago. How you guys have been able to... I mean, obviously, did you have any like special interest in geography as a whole before you started playing GeoGuessr? Was that the
No.
calling or no?
No, I still don't have any strong interest in geography. Like, you mentioned you're like good at flags, and I think if I took like a flag quiz, I'd get like 50% or something.
Fair enough.
I
Fair
still
enough.
I still don't know the difference between like the Croatian and Slovakian flag or something. They look the same to me.
I always, so when I have those, I've come up with that's the way I remember things, and that's why I can only store so many things, because it's so cryptic the way that I remember. It's I say Slovakia has a K because there's a cross in the flag. I think, isn't that right? Wait, let me just.
And I would have to Google it.
Yeah, there's a cross. It's kind of, it looks more like a ship, a mast or whatever. So I say Slovakia, and a Danish cross is with a K. So Slovakia has a cross. Therefore, it's whenever I see the flag with the cross in it, that's the one with the K. That's the like that's it's like that I remember. And then when I like for Croatia, it's the checkers, because I don't know why, but I remember when you were a kid and you had football cards. Like the World Cup football cards from like 1998 or whatever, I would have those with Croatia's flag on it, which had like the red and white checkers, pattern on it, and it's those like really weird sort of things that Like, that's the way I learn or memorize a lot of those sort of things. There's no logic behind it. It's just making sayings for myself.
I
I
think
think
that's
everyone
just the
else has
way.
their own
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, and I have a bunch of crazy mnemonics for like U.S. area codes.
What's the worst one? Like right off, just off the top of your head. What's the most illogical one? Having to explain it to someone, which you now get a chance to do to all of us.
Eastern Connecticut. So a lot of them, I like convert the numbers to like leet speak. So like the 4 in my name is for A.
For A, yeah.
But like Eastern Connecticut is like 860.
Yeah.
So I look at it like BGO, and then for some reason like the word BOGO corresponds to Connecticut in my brain.
So whenever you think BOGO, you know you're in East Connecticut.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It doesn't like there's no actual connection between Connecticut, but it's just like
it's just how your brain
words
works.
are just easier to place. Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's what, again, I mean, I totally get that, but that's again where your brain has to be stuffed. I mean, as a pro GeoGuessr player, your brain has to be stuffed with so much illogical, like gibberish for any other aspect than GeoGuessr, right? And I could get it if you told me you'd been studying this full time for 10 years. But how some of you guys, I mean, you're included, again, talked to Philip just before, how some of you guys have been able to train your brains. I mean, you too, Gelotris. I mean, obviously having been in the scene longer, but a lot of the stuff that you know as well. How you guys have been able to fill your brains and not just have it like come in one ear out of the other, and store it and be able to pull it out and use it when like the situation asks for it, to me is completely insane. In the most positive, like complimentary ways, it's wild. I'm so baffled every time when you go, well, obviously it's this thing because that thing or that thing or BOGO is Connecticut, you know? I mean, one thing is being able to say it now, but in the situation where you need to know it, remember it when you've already learned 9,000 other things, to me, that's really impressive.
I think it's just, at least that's the case for me. I don't know how it's for you, Sp4ghet. It was just learning a lot of stuff, and then you forget half of it. But if you remember the other half, then it's still a lot, you know?
True. True.
I mean, for me, it definitely also applies. I mean, I'm known to be very good at Turkey. And it's just having repetitively the same information for small areas, which means there was a week where I looked at one province specifically and tried to get good at this province and find clues for this province. And I was doing it 7 days a week. I was looking day by day on every road and what poles they use and what architecture they use. And this repetitiveness will help you to keep that in mind, even if you don't see it for another month.
Yeah. I like to compare oftentimes. I don't know how much it actually does compare, but when I first got into the competitive aspect of GeoGuessr, I was kind of thrown in the deep end, because I don't know if you guys know, but the way that I was introduced to casting GeoGuessr was, hey Toby, we would like you to be on, because Bloom wasn't available for a show he was supposed to be doing, and I think it was 8 days from when I initially got reached out to, because again, it was a very short notice thing, and I knew the people that ran the tournament, so it made sense for them to go, hey Toby, we would like you on board. But I had 8 days to, I mean, I played GeoGuessr, I knew the game, but there's a big difference in playing a game and watching a few tournaments to being able to confidently on a broadcast talk about stuff, you know? I had 8 days to just hop in the deep end and try and just, you know, throw everything up against the wall and see what stuck. Well, that was a good time, and you guys were, I mean, in the first couple of days, amazing with whenever I said something that was completely stupid, and you were like, Toby, that's so incorrect. I was like, oh, sorry about that, I'll do it again tomorrow, but sorry. No, but that's, yeah. I mean, I'm amazed every single day we do these broadcasts. I'm amazed by how good you guys are. You too, Gelotris. You're a pleasure casting with, even if you don't think you're a caster. You're the brain and I'm the pinky. You know, like the two mice. That's how it works.
That works. Thank you.
Okay, so before I let you go, Sp4ghet, any let's I mean, obviously GeoGuessr right now has a really good trajectory with how it's growing and how the scene is evolving. Is there anywhere in particular you would like to see GeoGuessr go? Not physically, as in have a tournament in this country, but more in a broader perspective. Something you would like to see the game become, or like, if you know what I mean, a milestone you would like to see it reach.
I think it would be exciting if we had more offline tournaments that weren't specifically about the world championship. Like if we had
like standalone events.
Yeah, there was maybe like one event in France last year that I'm aware of. But like otherwise everything is kind of online. And I think that's like good for hosting it casually and kind of having a lot of like high frequency tournaments, but it would be good to have like something in between.
For sure.
I think where it's like it's like pretty important to, like, I guess it's like higher stakes than just like, not to like
fun weekly thing.
Say that like TGS or something is like less important, but it just happens a lot more frequently. So I think people like it feels a lot more casual to play in TGS. It's like a tournament that happens like right now it's like every other week or so, but it used to be like twice a week or something. So it would be like very frequent and online. But if we had like something in between where it's like, and I think having it offline would be pretty exciting.
For sure.
So just having like a bunch of offline tournaments across the world.
Just having the fans in the arena and like doing all these things. Obviously, it takes a lot more planning to be able to execute. Like logistics-wise, it's a lot harder than just having two admins go click next game, click next game. But I think coming from other esports, I could not imagine the world not wanting a bigger piece of GeoGuessr. I mean, going back to seeing how the trajectory is and with what you're saying as well, Sp4ghet, I think and hope, I mean, I don't know this for a fact because I'm obviously not part of those decisions being made, but I could only imagine that in the very near future, we will see a lot more of that. Like third-party tournament organizers coming in and wanting to do GeoGuessr tournaments that aren't necessarily affiliated with qualifying for the World Championships or anything to do with the World League. It's just its own standalone one-time tournament where when you win it, you get X prize pool or whatever. I could only, like in all other esports, that's how big esports were born, was by tournament organizers wanting to do tournaments. And as long as the interest is there, which clearly it is, I could only imagine that that's the next step for GeoGuessr. I just think it's important. I think that's what's happening with the World League and the World Championship right now, is to build a good foundation, have a good like official rule set that other tournament organizers can then use as springboard to create their own things, you know?
Yeah.
I think we're in for a good time. I think it's going to be a good run for sure.
I think we missed
noticed
one
the
miss.
numbers are.
I thought that's it because we had another question.
Sorry, I didn't see. Let me scroll back. Oh, you can have it. I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Lucy Louise asking what your favorite mode is.
I like no move probably the most. Although I feel like I like locations that have info, but I don't particularly, I don't know, I guess I would rather have it there than having to like walk to it, you know?
It also removes the, I suppose, RNG of did I go up or down the right road, or is that a factor, or?
I mean, I think after a certain extent, maybe moving has some element of RNG, but I would say it's like the least volatile game mode.
Okay.
I would think. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying.
I feel like it's like when you lose in moving, maybe sometimes it's like, this guy just walked the right way, but also a lot of the time, like, if there is a skill gap, you're probably never going to win.
That makes perfect sense.
I think
it's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Well, unless if you, actually, before I let you go, Sp4ghet, I want to give you a chance to shout out if there's any viewers out there, any fans, anyone supporting you, because I do see a lot of support in the chat for you when you do play. That whenever we get to cast you on stream. So, are there any shout outs that you want to do to the viewers out there?
Well, thank you to those fans. Obviously, when I'm playing, I can't look at the stream, so I don't actually see those messages. But yeah,
I can tell you, there's a lot of support. People do like you a lot.
Really, that's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool to know.
Definitely, yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
And lastly, before I fully let you go, I can see Panem just snuck in here with a quick question. What do you think of the moving classic format?
So they happened at like 3 a.m. my time, so I wasn't able to like fully watch it all. But I think it's interesting and maybe maybe even better than the current moving duels rules, but I would also argue maybe it's not perfect. Not that I know how to make it better, but
that's always the tricky part, right? You can see that there's something wrong, but you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah. I think like sometimes sometimes there's a big difference in skill between getting like 4995 versus 5k, and then sometimes there's like not that much difference. And then also when I noticed one of the things I noticed was like people would be 5k'ing like almost at an identical time, and you either win or you lose by like a margin of like 0.4 seconds, and that with the current like state of the game servers, maybe sometimes you just have bad ping and you lose.
True. Yeah, when it gets that close. Yeah, I could see that being the case.
I can see that being somewhat upsetting, but
for sure.
Although I don't know, I think it's more interesting if you care about pinpointing, but also there is like some kind of finesse to like just send fast and moving duels once you know what town you're in, because it doesn't matter. Like I think that kind of playing is also like getting to the town is like another one of those skills which is different from pinpointing, and so like finding the town really quickly and then taking the time away from your opponent, like that's also like somewhat interesting to me. Like that is like another part of the moving skill set which is interesting but doesn't get captured by like a rule that cares more about 5k'ing. So like that's something that the current moving duels captures pretty well, I think, in most cases. But there's always like, how do you balance like big countries being way more important than smaller countries, and then like also
leave me
like,
being Danish, I know the pain.
So it's like you kind of have to choose what you care about, and so with like the moving classic, you just say like every country matters regardless of how small it is. But yeah, I guess
again,
does have a point there.
No format is perfect, and good solutions can be found. Better solutions can always be tweaked towards, but the perfect format doesn't exist, because in the end, some people are better at one way of playing, some way people are better at the other, and they will always cater towards the playstyle or the rule set that increases their chances of winning. And therefore, I mean, I think that's why it's good that the World League and World Championship, or whatever, all these tournaments do utilize multiple game modes, that it's not all like we fully commit to an NPC or fully commit to moving exclusive, formats, because I think this, at least while I know that the order in which, like when BO5s are no move, then back to move again, obviously that's a massive advantage to moving players. But I hope that for BO5s in the future, it's gonna be spread out better. Not that I have any say in that, I just think this is the best way to do it as it sits right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess another good thing about having like So the Moving Classic, it was like a pretty high stakes tournament, I'd say,
Mm.
where like there was a pretty big prize pool.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's good to have more like other tournaments, so then you can experiment with more rules. Whereas like with the World League, it's not really even like the people playing or the people watching that have a say on how the game rules are set. So like it's kind of it. There's like only one. I don't know. I guess it's like less democratic in the way that the game rules are decided in. So like having a bunch of tournaments, you can experiment with more interesting rules. Or,
Oh,
like,
for sure.
doing something different, yeah.
And that goes back to what you were
more
hoping to see more of earlier, like the whole more third-party tournaments, more creative events taking place to maybe push the boundaries of what is again, it doesn't exist, but what is the perfect tournament structure for GeoGuessr, or even just doing crazy YOLO things. Because imagine, I mean, think about how many games that are big today came from being a mod in a game that had nothing to do with that game. You know, like Counter-Strike was a mod in Half-Life. League of Legends and Dota and all those was a mod in Warcraft 3. Like it was ideas built by the community based on a game that they all had access to. So surely, I mean, 10 years from now, we might have something in GeoGuessr that isn't even moving no move on NPC. That's something completely fourth that we right now can't even imagine because the person that is needed to come up with the idea haven't thought of it yet. And I think that's always fun, like sitting.
Shout out to Antidote with the Sulking World No Pan Zoom tournament she hosted. Where you're just staring in the ground, crab walking the whole time. It was a good tournament.
No, but that's what I mean. It's those sort of like, it seems stupid, seems weird, but sometimes that's what's needed. A breath of fresh air for some fun content like that. I'll let you go. Sp4ghet, thank you so much for joining in. And also, Gelotris, I don't want to hold you hostage if you have other stuff that you need to do, but you can stick around because I do have some more people coming in real soon that I want to get a chance to talk to as well. It's amazing that we get to do this, and I'm sad I didn't come up with this idea 16 weeks ago. But at least we can do it now. But thank you so much, Sp4ghet, for hopping on. I assume it's pretty late in Japan now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to stay awake for the league, so it's fine.
Oh, wow, yeah, okay. Feels Japanese, man, I suppose. I'll let you get back to warming up or practicing or whatever you want to do then. Take care.
Cool. See you. Good eve. Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you.
Going towards the evening. Something in between.
Exactly. GG's, man.
Bye.
And then I'm gonna hang up on Gelotris, and he's gonna be sad about that. And then I'm gonna call him again. There you are, back again. Turn on your camera, Gelotris.
On.
And then I have to pop out, and then there he is. Back on again. We have another guest coming, and I love that you don't know who the next guest is. 1 second. No problem.
I'm just staying here to see who the next guest is.
Exactly. No one knows. Yeah, again, thanks a lot, Sp4ghet, for joining us. It's always amazing to get some insights from the community. Our next guest is going to be an interesting one. I can tell you, our next guest, and I'll let chat, you can try and guess as well. Our next guest will be here in 5 minutes time, and it's a guest that is currently in the top 12 on the league rankings. That's all I will tell you. Then we'll see from there who it's gonna be. Then you can make up your mind.
I will stay for another 5 minutes then. Are you familiar with the classic moving format?
No, so I heard. I mean, Fennep talked about it earlier today, and how it's a moving format that incentivizes 5K'ing more. But I don't know the ins and outs of the specific format.
That you don't have any health. So it's point based. So the closer guest will get a point. So we make a duel. I'm closer, I get a point. You are closer, you get a point.
And then it's first to X amount.
System. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or, I mean, you either have to be closer, or the 1 to 5k first gets the point.
Okay, that makes sense.
How it works.
That's interesting.
So it's interesting. It's definitely a better moving duel, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the moving duel that we have for now, if you just slam it down and send it, that's not really a moving duel.
Yeah. I think many people agree with the fact. I mean, obviously, again, you can't fault people that don't play moving to, for example, when we see Zigzag play and he just insta-sends in some moving rounds where you're like, guys, give Kratzo a chance to move around a little bit, you know? But of course, if that goes against Zigzag's, and this is just using him as an example, because we saw that last week, but if that goes against, like if that just gives his opponent a better chance to win, then why would you help him, you know?
It's how the duel works.
Exactly, that's how the rules are.
Even if it has its flaws and if it can be optimized, if it is like that currently, then I would also take use of it.
Yeah, well, of course. You're playing a competitive tournament.
Works.
You want to win. I mean, it's as simple as that. You want to be the best that you can possibly be. I have a fun thing we can do, chat, while we're waiting for this next person to join in. Not knowing who it's gonna be, and I'll have you join in. Oh, this is Will Gelotris. Not knowing who it's gonna be, I want you guys to ask questions. I want you guys to come up with questions that this person has to answer, but it's gonna make it more fun because you guys don't know who it is. So you can't really cater the question to. I mean, you could cater this question to a specific person and then see if the other person or if the person will answer them in a weird way instead. But I think that could be a fun way of doing this next one. We can also do actual questions to the person when they get here, but I think it's a fun way of doing it.
I mean, okay.
Just think of a question.
They're already assuming who it is.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know it either, but...
Nope, you don't.
Well, since I'm hopping out soon as we have the guest in, you can ask that for my part. My question would be, how would they prepare if they knew they would have to play me next Sunday in the Pro League?
How would you prepare if you knew that you had to play Gelotris next week? Okay, yeah. They would probably say, I'll just spam Turkey for a week and then GG.
Probably. Or not practice at all. I'll take a vacation for a week and come back. That's also a valid answer.
Toxic. You can't be toxic against yourself. That's not right. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Hey, I'm washed. It is fine though.
It's okay. That's the danger
I'm
of
always
casting.
I'm always talking to myself and say the worse you get at the game, the more it gets a guessing game again instead of knowing, you know?
True. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, maybe.
It's part of the title.
To enjoy the game more, yeah.
It's literally part of the name of the game. It's not geo-knowing. It's geo-guessing, you know? It's, yeah, true.
And
true.
I want to stick to that. That's why I'm getting worse on purpose.
Yeah. If you want to live the real GeoGuessr experience, just come down to my level and we'll have fun talking.
I'll get there. If I keep this pace that I have.
For every broadcast you do with me, it's just like slowly degrading.
Who knows?
I like all the questions that have come through so far.
Yeah, I also like.
One last look before did you if you have to go as well. One last look at the overall leaderboard so far, Gelotris. Now we've had the pleasure of casting these for the better part of a half year, not fully, but almost. What to you? Like, is the top 3 locked in? Is Blinky, Consus, Radu not necessarily in that order, but are them 3 finishing top 3? Or is there anyone that you think could come in and take one of the spots away?
I mean, it heavily depends on who they face, of course.
Don't use logic.
But I think
use
most
vibe.
of them had... I mean, based on vibes, of course. I mean, those 3 names, even before the leak, I had them on lock. Therefore, seeing it now, closer to the end, I don't think we will see a change, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
But at the same time, I wouldn't know who. I mean, of course, you have Debray.
I mean, Debray,
in fourth
MK, and Moo,
place.
all within 2 points of each other.
I think MK will just have a hard time on moving against all those three.
Yeah.
That's MK's weakness. And with that weakness, he lacks the consistency to get up there, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Besides that, I think it's fair as it is right now.
Yeah. I mean, it makes good sense. They're all three absurdly good at the game. I still remember the shock that went through everyone when we were in Stockholm and Consus fell out early. And was it in EMEA that Blinky went out early as well? The first one that you played in when I was casting the first time? It was like all the first seed players in each group all got eliminated. And it was like, what the hell is this tournament? Like, it was the one that Topovic won. Yeah.
It was EMEA.
Yeah. So I just remember all the first seeds falling out, and the entire room, like the upstairs room where all the players were sat, everyone was like, oh, what the hell's going on? I'm like, nothing was written in the script that it was supposed to go this way, you know?
I think I'm not sure, so therefore, warning, this could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Wolf Tracker won against Blinky there. That was a big upset. No one expected that.
There were some big ones. There definitely were.
I think it was even moving, if I remember correctly. So yeah, definitely something no one did expect at all.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
Who is a player that is not in the World League that you are the most surprised isn't here? Because now you mentioned both Wolf Tracker and we talked about Crookst earlier. There are definitely some high up names that aren't here. But who are you the most surprised by not playing?
Well, I'm not surprised by it, but... Well, I was. Because Bad at Geo, I don't know if you know Bad at Geo, was playing at the EMEA as well. He didn't want to play in this because it was too much commitment.
Which is fair, I mean...
yeah. I think he's one of the greatest players out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, therefore, kind of bad not to see him in here. Other names besides that, King that is not here. I mean, you mentioned Crookst, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think I have any other name in mind right now. There's a lot of good players, but you know, with the most of them, I already knew that they don't want to compete.
See, that's the answer, Joniba. That's the answer I was looking for. Where is Gelotris? Why is he not playing?
Yep. I don't think I've grinded ever since the EMEA.
Fair enough.
Ever since then, I just played casually, honestly.
That's fair. I mean,
lately I got to look a bit into it again, you know, mapping a bit of seasons here and there. But it's just too much commitment on Turkey.
Yeah.
So.
That's fair enough.
Yep.
I must say, I think I have as much time spent in GeoGuessr exclusively playing Denmark rounds as I have playing the rest of the world. Maybe not completely, but almost. There's something fun about walking around your own country and getting locations and whatnot. And obviously for you being in Turkey, a few more roads to walk down than in Denmark. But it's just such a good time.
Also that the country had very limited coverage in 21.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't that much coverage. I think it was it was like September 22, when suddenly the whole country got new coverage.
Yeah.
And all of the wide roads and off-roads, forest roads got coverage out of nowhere. That made it fun learning it before that, because it was limited coverage and you could practically learn every single road in that country.
Yeah.
And that's why I enjoyed it that much. It
was the Kazakhstan of its time.
Yes, pretty much. It was only main roads. Main roads and the cities in between.
Fair enough.
And then you're at the point where you learned all these roads. And then all this new coverage came up. And I was in between, do I just give up? No. Maybe not. But I kind of did.
Yeah.
Because it was frustrating. Because it was just so much new coverage.
So
But at the same time, you are at a pace where you know you already did so much for that country and did learn so much, and then you want to get even better and even better and even better, and it doesn't stop. It's like a circle.
Makes sense. Yeah, because as soon as you know everything, there's gonna be new coverage coming out, and then you can start all over again. Yeah, you know what? I will echo Sharpie Man's question. So now that Finbar was so kind as to give us a massive doctrine of Russia, when is the Gelotris Turkey doctrine coming out?
I don't think that's ever
TBD. TBD. Did you want to stick around for the next guest?
I was thinking about making videos, but
yeah,
maybe video series on explaining stuff. But
it'll happen. Guys, just force him to it. Force him to do it. Whenever his streams, go in and sub. Make him want to do this full time, even more so than he already is. Exactly. Did you want to stick around for the next guest, or did you have to go?
I have to go now.
You have to go. That's fair enough. Thank you so much, Gelotris, for joining me in co-hosting this show.
Of course, it was fun so far, and I bet it will be fun for the next upcoming guest as well.
I hope so. We will see in just a moment. Chat has had their guesses as to who it is. I'm not going to call this person. So thank you for joining in, and see you next week.
Of course. Yep. See you next week, Toby.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.